Viewers, do you use quick commerce apps? Are Blinkit, Zepto and other apps your go-to destinations for groceries? Well then, you need to watch what comes next. Food safety officials have raided Zepto and Blinkit warehouses in Karnataka and Maharashtra respectively, exposing what officials described as serious hygiene concerns inside these so-called dark stores, quote-unquote. Take a look at the visuals on your screens. Food safety officials described the conditions at the warehouses as extremely unhygienic. In Maharashtra, the FDA has suspended the license of Blink Commerce Private Limited under Section 32(3) of the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, until further orders, of course. Meanwhile, in Karnataka, the food safety officials have sealed a Zepto store following the inspection. The raids that these have in fact raised some serious questions about hygiene and food safety standards in India's fast-growing quick commerce industry. The rot is now out in the open, viewers. The contrast between what you are promised and what you may actually be delivered to your doorstep is stark. Instant 10-minute delivery apps promise fresh groceries at your doorstep, but food safety inspections have raised concerns over expired stock and even fungus-infested food. Of course, this does not mean that every delivery is unsafe, but the findings from recent food inspections certainly raise serious questions about hygiene and food safety standards. Now, these platforms explicitly promote their dark stores as facilities where hygiene and efficiency are prioritized. Yet, inspectors have reported finding cockroaches and filth on dirty storage racks. The most important question at this point is whether these are isolated instances or part of a larger pattern. Let's take you through some recent cases that have been reported in the public domain. In June 2025, it was Zepto. Raids had taken place in Dharavi in Mumbai. The observation here is that fungus growth in the store was present. In July 2026, it was Swiggy Instamart based on nationwide customer complaints, and there was observation of rotten eggs, spoilt milk and deteriorated baby food. In August 2026, Blinkit, Malad West in Mumbai, observation here was cockroach infestation, stock of expired items. In August 2026, Zepto and Bengaluru in Karnataka, observation of extremely unhygienic, non-compliant labeling. Viewers, the fact is that over 26 million consumers use quick commerce for groceries in India, which is why it's a serious concern. Take a look at the figures which tell you why the raids in Blinkit and Zepto serves as a wake-up call for the entire country. What are we talking about? We're talking about Blinkit and the daily orders over here. So this is the first website that we're talking about. We're talking about Blinkit. Let's talk about daily orders here. Daily orders are in the tune of lakhs. What is the order number as far as Blinkit is concerned? It's 6.5 lakhs. That's the kind of volumes we are talking about, which just goes to show how much these apps have actually penetrated into various cities. The dark stores that Blinkit has, stores at the same point of time that we're talking about, is at 2,243. 2,243 stores that Blinkit has. Now, when it comes to Zepto, Zepto's daily orders, we're just talking about these two because these are two sites that have come under the scanner. The orders here are at 5.5 lakhs. That is also, of course, a huge number when it comes to daily orders. Dark stores in this case are over 1139. These are the stores that are talked about from where similar complaints have come in. These are just two of the platforms. There are, of course, several other such platforms. But it's not just e-commerce stores. Viewers, hotels as well as restaurants too are under the scanner. Let's take you through some of the recent raids at food joints across India and what really authorities have seized so far. Let's take a look at Bengaluru in August of 2026. Seizures of 45 kilograms of rotten meat, 15 liters of reused cooking oil. In Maharashtra from May to August 2026, seizures of 55.72 crores of adulterated food, 100 plus kilograms of artificial paneer included in this. In Hyderabad, from January to April 2026, seizures of 64.7 lakhs of adulterated food, What are we talking about? Over 3 tons of reused oil in this period. In the state of Uttar Pradesh, in February of 2026, the seizures are of over 13,972 liters of adulterated oil, 1.3 tons of rotten dates. In overall Telangana in July 2026, we're talking about seizures of over 850 kilograms of adulterated ghee, over 60 kilograms of contaminated ghee. In Delhi NCR, in August 2026, seizures of thousands of kilograms of synthetic dairy products. Now, every rotten food raid making headlines this week falls under one key food law. That is the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. And the law works like a ladder with penalties escalating for serious or repeat violations. Start with a minor lapse. The FSSAI can issue an improvement notice, giving the business a fixed time frame to correct the violation. Fail to comply or commit a more serious violation, such as selling substandard food or making a false advertisement, and you could face a monetary penalty ranging from 25,000 rupees to 10 lakh rupees of punishment, or penalty rather. If these violations continue or the business refuses to comply, the license itself can be suspended or cancelled. No valid FSSAI license, no legal authorization to operate. Full stop. That's how the law functions. Well, now comes the most important part. What should you check when your food delivery arrives? Let's take you through a very quick guide. This is what we're talking about. What you should be essentially checking is the expiry dates. You have to reject broken seals or return them. When it comes to dairy, frozen, eggs, the product should be chilled. When it comes to flour, oats, and dates, check for insects or larvae immediately upon delivery. Exercise your rights as a citizen. Take clear photographs, seek refund, file a complaint on FSSAI app, and register your protest. Let's quickly open this up and take it across to our guests who are joining us. With us is Sachin Taparia, who's a founder of Local Circles. We also have Abhijit Bose, Chief Operating Officer of Consumer Voice. Now, Abhijit Bose, the question that is, of concern to many today, when they look at what is happening in Bengaluru, when they look at what is happening in Mumbai, is that how much are these platforms or restaurants taking their customers for a ride? Because you're not paying cheap for this. You're paying the entire MRP. Of course, sometimes there's discounts, etc. But how is it, and how much should consumers be assured, and how do they know that the dark stores they are operating from are not in a similar condition of the appalling scenes of rubbish, of filth, of insects that are crawling all over it? Abhijit.
See, when you go to a grocery shop or kirana shop, the dust, the temperature conditions, the rodents, I would like to safely, replace cockroaches with rodents for obvious reasons, are visible. The genius of the dark store is that it has taken the material out of the sight of the consumers. So that is something which has to be looked upon, and there are authorities who can raid these stores and check the proper conditions are kept or not, as we do periodically. But I have a question here. Do we check how the stuff is kept in company warehouses? Do we check how it is traveling from one city to another city and then kept in the transporter's warehouse? So these are also the places where we are storing the stuff.
Abhijit, the question is very simple. When you say that kirana stores, there are rats, now they're replaced by rodents, I think that's, insulting the intelligence of our consumers. If you see something like that in a store, you don't have to buy anything there. You can walk to a next store where it's cleaner and you can pick up things from there. Unfortunately, that option is not there when it comes to dark stores. So let's not insult the consumer's intelligence by making these kind of arguments, please.
Absolutely. That's what I said, that is the genius of dark stores, that it is taking the consumables or the items out of the sight of the consumers in the dark stores. But at the same time, there is a convenience angle also, which the online shopping gives you.
No, but the convenience does not take away from their responsibility of providing quality products. You're making a profit, but that can't be at the expense of hygiene. Let me bring in Sachin on that note. Sachin, does this logic make any sense? That because of the convenience, you're signing away rights to hygiene, you're signing away rights to, insects crawling all over the products?
Absolutely not, Madhav. We have, in fact, I'll break the entire issue into two, segments. The first one is restaurants, like you touched on. We've just released a massive survey yesterday where we reached out to, thousands and thousands of consumers, received about 91,000 responses from visitors of air-conditioned restaurants across 244 districts of India. Now, restaurant is something where a consumer actually goes. So they can actually share with you what they experience. So if they experience, rodents or pests or cockroaches or insects, they'll share with you, right? If they find a dirty washroom or an oil, that is being reused, they'll share that. So that's with the restaurants in terms of, consumers coming back and saying, look, we have a problem. For the longest time, we didn't do anything about the problem other than occasional raids. Now, since the last couple of months, there has been a systemic, crackdown on such malpractices starting out of Mumbai, then Bangalore, and now we are seeing it in a few other cities. So which is, the right step, but something that should not be, a one-time thing, but something that is sustainable, which actually fixes the basic processes at these restaurants, right? One of the big asks out of that survey from the public is, just like we get, Google reviews of restaurants, we get to see pictures of the restaurants, we should see a hygiene rating of each and every restaurant published on apps, published at the door of the restaurant, and listing the violations that the restaurant has violated and wherever they stand. So that way the consumer is making more informed choices. So that's with the restaurants. With the dark stores, it's a little different because a consumer cannot go to a dark store. And hence, this is where the company that is running the dark store is responsible into ensuring that they have proper internal audit mechanisms in place, and they are actually, doing surprise checks in all these stores. Similarly, the administrator, which is here, it is FSSAI and the state food departments, they have to ensure that there are certain basic standards. So today, we don't have any mandatory standards on how to build and operate a dark store, for instance.
Absolutely. And what is FSSAI's job? Because, I find it very shocking, Mr. Avijit Bose, that Pradeep Chakrabarti, who is a former director of the SSAI, claims it's not delivery platforms, but the suppliers, the delivery boys who should be responsible for such health issues. How are they responsible? Are they the ones running the stores?
No, not exactly. But as Sachin said, the registered dark store can be inspected, can be sued, as we do for five-star hotels or restaurants or a Kirana store.
But there's no prescribed SOP. Why is there no prescribed SOP despite e-commerce platforms and these kind of dark stores being proliferating for years now? It's not something that's happened overnight, has it?
Yes, they are catering to a large number of population, approximately 29-30 million people are using the online shopping almost daily. But here, what I am trying to say is it is providing the convenience also. And that's the way of life.
Of course, it's providing convenience. Sir, you again coming back to that argument. My question is, why is there no regulatory framework? Why are our government babus trailing behind, technology and technology that's been around for the last 3-4 years? It's not technology that's come yesterday or day before yesterday. What is the government's problem in putting together an SOP is a question that Sachin Taparia is asking. And I think that's a pertinent one that all consumers in the country should be asking the government.
Absolutely.
So who will take the responsibility? The consumer who is paying the handling charge to the dark store, they don't take responsibility. The government and the FSAI don't take responsibility. So the consumer be damned. That's at the end of the day the message that's going out.
So that's why I said that there has to be, SOPs, and there has to be registered, inspections, fines, and they should be sued whenever we find them, violating the basics.
But let me ask Sachin an essential question. There are bad apples, there are bad players everywhere. Of course, they have to be punished. They should be made an example of. But should the average consumer be worried about e-commerce as a whole because of these few images that we've seen coming out of Bombay, Bengaluru? What is your advice to them, Sachin?
So I would not be worried as a consumer. I would be cautious there, Madhav, and I would basically, when such issues do come, where let's say somebody receives a delivery and let's say the flour that you have received, there is an insect in there, I would encourage consumers to report such issues on social media, hold FSSAI accountable for ensuring that these practices don't take place. There are corrective actions taken by the local food department. So as a consumer, by and large, I would not be worried. But at the same time, it's absolutely, and there are no bad apples here. These are all 7, 8 large companies that we are dealing with here. So I think the important thing here to remember is...
No, but if they're big companies, that doesn't mean the managers responsible for the store's hygiene who have failed are exceptional employees. That means they have failed and they should be tracked down upon. Let's be very clear about it.
So absolutely, I agree with you that they have failed in these instances where there are raids. And as I said in my opening remarks, that, internal audit has to be better. The checks and balances have to be better. And the processes that have to be laid out have to be top notch, and I'll just illustrate on a little bit. So for example, if you are operating a dark store, you've got to have a very robust inventory management system where products that are expiring first are the ones that are shipped first. It's not first in, first out, but first expire, first out, right? So this is a basic philosophy that these companies have to implement, right? And then essentially what you've got to do is comply with the law, which basically says display expiry date to the consumer. This is something that local circles started with the Department of Legal and Metrology back in 2017. It's still not fully implemented to date. What happens as a result is, in the store, you have certain products that are coming to the consumers, which are either very close to expiry date or in some cases even expired. Because the consumer does not get to see this information firsthand. Nobody really bothers to ensure.
So essentially what you're saying is don't worry, but be vigilant. That's what the larger message for consumers should be. Certainly, of course, there should be exemplary punishment for any such situation where these dark stores, there is lack of hygiene, there is too much garbage, there are insects, etc. And it's a wake-up call for these e-commerce platforms not to take their consumers for granted just because you're running a huge amount or a huge operation or a huge store. That does not give you the license to allow filth, to allow for these kind of conditions from where food that the average Indian is eating, whether they're just 26 million or more, comes from. That's a very, very important lesson certainly coming in for these e-commerce companies as well. I'd like to thank our guests, Sachin Taparia, as well as Avijit Bose, for joining us this evening.